Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to see the second chapter of Flamingo, that is Lost Spring. This story, this chapter, Lost Spring, has got different stories of young children. Now the story talks about the childhood. The story talks about the memories of the child. The story is written by Ernest Jung. She was born in 1964 in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. Now, a lot of introduction is given over here. She completed her education in Hyderabad and she went to United States of America. Okay, and then her parents were both writers. Ernest Jung started her career as a writer in India, and she has been an editor and a columnist for major newspapers in India and abroad, and has authored many books. Now, this book, titled Lost Spring, Stories from Stolen Childhood, talks about the different types of childhood the children have, especially those who live in poverty, those who live in the very bad conditions. In the first part, we see there is a story of a young child called Sahib-e-Alam. Now the story starts in this way. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Now this is the quotation, this is the main statement which has been said by Sahib-e-Alam when he was encountered with the author. The authoress asked him a question, "Why do you do this?" "I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrouching for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood." Authoress had asked Sahib-e-Alam as to why he do the collection of garbage. Every morning, the authoress meets Sahib-e-Alam. Sahib-e-Alam scrounges for gold in the garbage. It doesn't mean gold in the garbage. Gold means Sahib is a rag picker. He collects all the garbage. He has got a small plastic bag on his shoulder and he collects all the plastic things, all the waste materials, and he put into his bag, and then he sells it to a junk seller. So for Sahib, the garbage or the waste material in the garbage is gold. Why? Because when he collects those waste materials and when he sells it in the market to a junk seller, he gets money. That's why Sahib considers the waste materials as gold in the garbage. Okay. So author has asked him a question as to why does he do that. Now Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. Before coming to Delhi, before coming to the periphery of Delhi, Sahib and his family, they were living in the place called as Dhaka. They were living amidst green fields. But today, he doesn't remember even his native place, Dhaka, or where his home was. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. So there was a natural disaster, that is storm, and because of these storms, it wiped away their fields and homes. It swept away their fields, swept away their homes, and they had no means of survival. That is what the story his mother had told him. That's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. So, sorry, they left their home, Dhaka, and they came to a new place, in a new city, in a big city, to search for gold, to search for a mean of livelihood. "I have nothing else to do," he mutters, looking away. Sahib says he has nothing to do, he cannot do anything else. He said very slowly. Mutters means he said very quietly, slowly. "Go to school," I say glibly. Author has told him, instead of collecting the waste garbage instead of rag picking, he should go to school. Realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. But see the answer given by him. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. Sahib says that there is no school near his surrounding. But if there is a school, if people build school, definitely he will go. Now see the next question put forward by authoress. She says, if I start a school, will you come? I ask half joking. Answer given by Sahib was yes. He says, smiling abroad. He smiled very beautifully. He smiled long and said, yes, he will definitely come to school if the authoress starts it. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? After a few days, what happened? The same child, Sahib, came to meet the authoress and asked her whether has she started school. Now the answer given by the authoress was, it takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. Authoress said that it takes long time to build a school. And here, authoress was a bit embarrassed. She felt little sad because she made a promise to the child, but that promise was not kept. She just blindly said a word to the child that she will build a school. If she will build a school, will he come? Child thought the woman, the authoress, is really going to build one. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. There are so many promises which has been made to this child by the world. After months of knowing him, I asked him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. So his name is Sahib-e-Alam. He does not know what it means. This little child doesn't know what does his name means. Sahib-e-Alam. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe. The meaning of his name is Lord of the universe. Sahib-e-Alam. Child doesn't know. If he knows the meaning, he would have a hard time believing it. The moment if he comes to know that the meaning of his name is Lord of the universe, it will be a very difficult time for him to believe, because he doesn't have a rich life. He doesn't have a good life. He does not have a comfortable life. He is a rag picker. He lives in poverty. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. Now, they are not aware of what, or he is not aware of what his name represents. He, along with his friends, army of barefoot boys, means he has got so many friends like him who are rag pickers. Every day, from morning till afternoon, like morning birds, they roam all over the streets everywhere, barefoot. They don't have slippers, they don't have shoes, they don't have chappals. They walk barefoot on the streets. And over the months, authoress had acquainted with them. She started recognizing each of them. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. So authoress asked one of them as to why he doesn't wear chappal. Answer given by that child was, my mother did not bring them down from shelf. He answers simply. The child said that his mother has not brought them from the shelf. Maybe from the cupboard, she has not put it down. Other child says, if she did, he will throw them off. Other child says, if at all, if the mother keeps the chappals from the shelf down, he will throw them off. This child will throw them off. Adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. There is one boy who is wearing the shoes, but those shoes doesn't match his feet. Maybe the shoes would be little longer and his feet are smaller. It is understood that these shoes doesn't belong to him. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes. So when the authoress commented on it, he shuffled his feet, means he shook his feet and said, All right. Now, the child said that he also want pair of shoes. Says the third boy who has never owned a pair of all his life. So the third child also says that he also want to have shoes, and he has never owned a pair of shoes in his life. Means he has never bought shoes in his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. So the authoress has seen many children. She has seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads whenever she travels across the country. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. So somebody explained her that it is not because of lack of money, it is not because of poverty, but it is because of a tradition that they have to stay barefoot, was explained by somebody. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Now, this is actually a kind of explanation given to stay away from the perpetual continuous state of poverty. Means people just give them an excuse. They don't want to show that they are living in poverty. It is just an excuse to talk that they follow the tradition to live without barefoot. Now, the authoress goes back in one story. She remembers one story. She recalls one story which says that, I remember a story from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. So a story talks about a man who was from Udupi. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. So there was a young boy whose father was a priest in a temple, in an old temple. The school was away from the old temple. Past means maybe beside or a little further from the temple. In that temple, his father was a priest. The child would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. So every morning before going to school, this young boy used to go to the temple and pray to God for a new pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. After 30 years today, when the authoress visited the town, this village and the temple, it is now drowned in an air of desolation. Means now it is entirely changed. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. At the backside of the temple, where the new priest is living, there are plastic chairs kept in the ground. A young boy dressed in a gray uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. So a small boy, young boy came from school. He was wearing gray uniform, socks, shoes. He was panting. Panting means he must have come home by running. So he was feeling short of breath. He was feeling he was breathing very fast. That is called as panting. He threw his bag on the folding bed. And looking at this boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. When the authoress saw this young boy who threw his bag over the bed, authoress remembered that 30 years ago when she visited this place, there was a young boy standing in front of the temple and was praying to God that he needs to have a pair of shoes. And finally, when he got the pair of shoes, again he prayed to God and said, let me never lose them. Let me never lose them. Means he should not lose these shoes now. He should possess these shoes as long as he can. The goddess had granted his prayer. The goddess had fulfilled his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, and today the culture is different. Young boys of this village, son of the priest, they wear shoe now. But many others like the rag pickers in my neighborhood remain shoeless. But the authoress says that in her neighborhood there are so many rag pickers, there are so many waste collectors who doesn't wear shoes. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi. Now, as the authoress had a good acquaintance and had a good connection, had a good recognition with these barefoot rag pickers, she goes back to a place called Simapuri. It is on actually the periphery of Delhi, means on the outskirt area of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. It is not actually in Delhi, it is miles away from Delhi. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. So those people who live in this outskirt area of Delhi, they have actually been migrated from Bangladesh in the year 1971. Sahib's family is also among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. That time, Simapuri, this place, this small town, it was a very lonely place. It was like a village. It was like a forest. It was like a very outdated place. That is wilderness. Nobody could live over there. It still is, but it is no longer empty. Till today, Simapuri is a wilderness, but it is not empty now. There are so many people who have started living over here. It is not a very hygienic place. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. So in this Simapuri, it is actually a slum area. Houses are made of mud, roofs are made of tin, and there's a tarpaulin over above everywhere. And outside the house, there is a lot of sewage, drain water, running water. Maybe there would be some bad smell also, foul smell also would be coming. In between here, nearly about 10,000 people live, 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters list and enable them to buy grains. Now, these rag pickers, they have been living in this place for over more than 30 years without any kind of identity. They don't have any identity proof. They have only one thing, that is ration card. And this ration card has got to them with their names on the voters list. And because of this ration card, they are able to get food grains every month. Food is more important for survival than identity. So for these rag pickers, for these people, poor people who live in poverty, they say that food is more important for survival than the identity. If at the end of the day, we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. So the family says that those who live here, when the day breaks, in the evening, if the family is able to get food and if they go to bed without an aching stomach, means without an empty stomach or without a stomach pain, when there is no food in the stomach, our stomach pains. So the family believes that if they have food in the evening and if they go to bed without stomach pain, it is good to live at this place rather than to live in the fields of Dhaka where there is no food, where there is no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris, when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So some women, group of women in their torn saris, patched saris, okay, torn from here and there, no proper sari. We can imagine this kind of people, those who are living in slum area, poor people. This woman said that author asked this woman, and the woman said that it is better to live in this place rather than living in the beautiful land of green fields and rivers. And author asked them as why they have left their beautiful green lands and rivers, why they have left their fields, why they have left their village and they are living in this slum area near Delhi. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents and that become their transit homes. Wherever they find food, wherever they find little work, they put up their tents and they start living over there, and that becomes their home. That place becomes their house. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. There is no other means of livelihood. If people are living in Simapuri, means they have to do only one job, that is rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportion of fine art. Garbage to them is gold. For them, garbage is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof, but for a child, it is even more. So for many years, they have been collecting garbage. And for them, garbage is their gold. And I have told you in the beginning why they consider garbage as gold. So as they are able to collect garbage, they are able to sell the garbage in the market, they are able to get money, they are able to get their food, bread. And because of that, they are able to have a roof over their head. They are living in the tents, in the mud houses. And even if the house is leaking house, even if the mud shack is leaking, it doesn't matter. They have a roof over their head. They have food. Then they get food. They have a roof. Whether it leaks or not, doesn't matter. But for a small child, even this particular small shack, tent, mud house is even more. The child says that, I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. And when you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elder, it is a means of survival. Sahib Alam says that sometimes he finds a rupee coin, sometimes he finds a 10 rupee note. And when he said these words, his eyes light up. Means there was a lot of shine in his eyes that shows that he becomes very happy whenever he finds 1 rupee, 10 rupee or 1 rupee coin or 10 rupee notes. And once he finds a silver coin in that heap of garbage, he doesn't stop scrounging, he doesn't stop searching. There is a hope that he will find more. And so they start searching in the garbage, thinking that they will get few more coins, few more money, like little more money they will get. For children, garbage has a different meaning from their parents. For children, garbage means it is wrapped in wonder. Means for children, garbage is like a gift that has been wrapped in wonder. So they have to go, they have to scrounge in it, they have to search in it. They may get money, they may get something precious thing. Or basically for this child, if they find 1 rupee currency, if they find 10 rupee note, they become very happy. That is why this garbage is like a gift wrapped in wonder. But for elders, it is nothing but a means of survival.